If you're investing in a normal taxable brokerage account, realize that taxes can have a huge impact on your future wealth, where this image shows the hypothetical growth of $500,000 over 20 years that grows 7.5% per year on average, and you can see how that would end up being worth roughly $2.1 million if there were no tax drag. But if you had a 1% tax drag, that balance drops down to just under $1.8 million, and if you instead had a 2% tax drag, your end balance would end up being just under $1.5 million. That still sounds nice, but that means your ending wealth difference after 20 years would be $665,000 lost due to taxes, which is all based on the investments you choose. So if you want to maximize the use of your funds in order to keep the most in your pocket, I'm about to show you 4 of the best ETFs that you need to know about for your own situation that range from a core foundational ETF to the best options for the growth category to then value-oriented ETFs, with the last one being for those that want to increase their potential income. But before we get started, my name is Sully. I run the company InvestLane, where our mission is to help others learn how to save and invest wisely to build lasting wealth. And all I ask is that if you do find value from this video, that you consider hitting the like, subscribe, and notifications button for future content like this. With that said, to get straight to it, let's first go over the core ETF that I refer to as exposure to the S&P 500. Now, I've mentioned the S&P 500 a ton on my channel and through InvestLane, so just to sum up what it is, it's pretty much a simple way to own 500 of the largest US-based companies all within one purchase. And do know that most refer to it as the US stock market benchmark. So knowing that, the S&P 500 has gained significant popularity over time, and it's proven to be a very strong investment for investors that have patience. Which, a fun fact for you is that since 1957, the S&P 500 has delivered an average annual return of 10.51%. In fact, one of the best investors of all time, Warren Buffett, has even recommended to most investors that the best thing to do is buy 90% in an S&P 500 index fund. And so the one he personally suggests is from Vanguard, that is the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF with the ticker of VOO, which is currently the largest ETF in the market that has just recently passed $1 trillion in assets under its management. But you can also see on this site how popular the S&P 500 actually is, because the second largest one in the market is an S&P 500 ETF as well. That's through iShares with the ticker of IVV. And then the third largest ETF in the market is also an S&P 500 ETF, where this one is through State Street with the ticker of SPY. So it's pretty obvious that the S&P 500 is among the most credible long-term investment that you could use as a foundation to a portfolio. And please know that even though I'm about to show you data specifically to VOO, there are many other options that you could choose that are all very similar. They strictly own the S&P 500, like IVV, SPY, SPYM, or even the no annual fee option that is BKLC from BNY Mellon. But to just sum up VOO, first note, this fund is super cheap to own, where it has a 0.03% expense ratio, which means for every $10,000 that you invest into it, it would cost you $3 per year in fees. And do know that those fees, they're automatically going to be taken out over time, so that's not something that you have to pay separately. And as you buy an S&P 500 ETF like VOO, like I said, you're going to get instant exposure to 500 of the largest US-based companies, where right now you can see that the top 10 holdings in VOO, you've probably heard of some of them, if not all of them, like Nvidia, Apple, and Microsoft, where each of them make up about 5 to 8% of the weight toward the fund. Which, fun fact for you, is that if you were to add up all 10 of those top 10 holdings, they make up roughly 39% of the entire fund's weight. Which you can also see, largely because of that, the largest sector in the fund is technology, with almost 39% of the entire weight toward the fund, with financials and the communication services thereafter. Above all that, realize that historically, this fund has done very well over time, where you can see over the past year, it has grown almost 30% in value. The past 5-year average was 14.11%. The past 10-year average was 15.61%. And since it launched in 2010, it has averaged 15.18% per year. And in fact, if you had VOO since 2017, let's just say that you had $100,000 sitting in the account, then by today, you would now have roughly $400,000 from averaging 15.67% per year. Which, also know that by the end of this video, I'm going to show you a simple generic portfolio that uses these 4 simple ETFs and how it would have done historically. But aside from that, something to know as you invest in a taxable account is that you need to be aware of the amount of potential qualified dividends that you could reap as you own the fund. Now, for those that don't know, dividends can be either qualified or non-qualified, and when you go to invest into an ETF, that depends entirely on the underlying holdings that are in the fund. So for the S&P 500 being solely large cap US companies, they're more likely going to be qualified, where you can see online that it's 2025 qualified dividend income percentage. As you scroll down to look for VOO specifically, 97.16% of the dividend income earned could have been triggered as long-term capital gains, qualified dividends, if you held the investment long enough. Now, if you didn't know, long-term capital gains means that your income that you generate could be triggered in the range of 0, 15, or 20%, and that depends entirely on your tax bracket. All in all, we created a simple visual at InvestLane to explain this, where with VOO, a $100,000 investment, and let's just say it had a 1.2% dividend yield, that would generate $1,200 in dividends after a full year. And if you're in a median tax bracket, that would end up costing you $180 in taxes on the investment, which is regardless of whether you reinvest the dividends or not, and that would end up leading you into a 0.18% tax rate. Now, if you look back at the image that we talked about at the beginning, a 0.18% of a tax rate is much better than 1 or 2% that many other potential investments could bring, and if you're not aware of that, over time, that can make a significant difference, and I'll mention more on this throughout the rest of the video for the other investments. But knowing that about the S&P 500, let's now go over the growth category that I specifically prefer, large cap growth. Now, of the choices here from all of my research, I've narrowed it down to Invesco's QQQ that currently has almost $500 billion in assets under its management, and it's the 5th largest ETF in the market at the moment. Now, if you are a simple buy and hold long-term investor, you may prefer the alternative QQQM, but another option as well could be Vanguard's VUG, that is the 7th largest ETF in the market by having about $225 billion in assets under its management. And then we also have Charles Schwab's SCHG that has $59 billion in net assets. All of these are great options to be aware of, but I'll just briefly mention that my personal favorite right now is SCHG, where you can see the fund currently has a 0.04% expense ratio. It tracks the return of the Dow Jones US Large Cap Growth Total Stock Market Index, where you can see the fund also has 197 holdings. Now, the top ones are very similar to the S&P 500s with companies like Nvidia, Apple, and Microsoft, but now they contain slightly more weight toward each. That is, for the top 3, between 6 to even 11.5% of the weight. And because of that, there is slightly more weight to infotech, where you can see there's 45% of the weight specifically to that sector, and then communication services at about 15%, and consumer discretionary thereafter at about 12.5%. But the biggest reason that I love investing into this type of growth ETF is that, first off, there is more opportunity for even more growth potential, which is crucial if you're on the younger end, where you can see over the past 10 years, this fund has grown almost 19% per year, which is more than 3% higher than VOO's on average. But the other nice benefit about this is that when you invest into growth companies, they're more likely to reinvest their dividends back into their business rather than trying to pay out a dividend to its shareholders. So because of that lower dividend yield it's likely to produce, if we now look at a simple example and compare VOO to SCHG, SCHG is slightly more tax efficient because it has that slightly lower dividend yield that's about 0.4%. And by the way, Charles Schwab computed that from 2025, SCHG would have generated 100% potential for qualified dividends. That means that $100,000 now with SCHG, you would have generated about $400 in dividends. That would leave you with $60 in taxes to pay, and that would then lead to having a 0.06% of a tax rate. But just realize that as you approach these investments, there is currently a 53% overlap by weight between the two funds, so a good amount of the same holdings you are owning at the same time when you own both. But knowing that, no matter what situation you're in, you really want to minimize that potential tax drag, but do realize that the offset with growth investments is that they're more likely to be more volatile. And so speaking of volatility, let's now talk about stability by potentially getting into the value category, where I refer to this as dividend equity. Now, the single best choice that I would pick here, and I'm only going to mention this for a strong overall dividend investment, at least right now, it's my personal favorite, and that is Charles Schwab's Dividend Equity ETF that has the ticker of SCHD. This fund has a 0.06% expense ratio. It tracks the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index, where it currently has 103 holdings, with the top ones being Texas Instruments, Qualcomm, United Health Group, Coca-Cola, and Procter & Gamble, that are all well-known dividend-paying companies. You can also see the amount of exposure to each of the top 10 is pretty solid. That's between 3.5% to 6.5% right now, where you can see top sectors include consumer staples, healthcare, energy, and industrials, which is great to see those above technology if you are one that's looking to diversify away from all that big tech that I just mentioned before. So if you like the sound of that, you'll like to know that SCHD has only an 8% of an overlap by weight with the S&P 500. And now if we look at its historical performance, you can see that over the past 10 years, the fund has averaged just under 13% per year, which is lower than the S&P 500, but the trade-off here is to earn a higher, potentially more stable, tax-efficient income today. You see, with this fund, it produced a 3.31% dividend yield over the trailing 12 months, and do note that it also pays that out on a quarterly basis, which means every 3 months. Not to mention, but Charles Schwab shows on their site that from 2025, 98.5% of that was offered the potential to reap as qualified dividends. Overall, this is a solid investment if you are looking for a strong dividend income right now, especially if you're in a lower tax bracket where you can reap potentially 0% of a tax rate, which could come up if you are single under $49,000 or married filing jointly and stay under $99,000. But you can also factor in the standard deduction, so don't forget that these numbers could be even higher, where you could still potentially reap that 0% tax bracket at the federal level. And remember, that is in a normal taxable brokerage account. Now, for those young, I highly recommend focusing on growth early so that you can reduce the most tax drag and have the highest potential to compound your money early. But just know from the visual we created, if you look at SCHD, let's just say that you get a 4% of a dividend yield, which is on the higher end. With a $100,000 investment, that would have generated $4,000 in dividends, likely triggering $600 in taxes if you're in that median bracket. And so knowing that if you're in this position, that would likely end up costing you a 0.6% annual tax drag, which for taking an income that's likely to be in your mid-career or later that you can have now and not have to wait until you use a retirement account until the age of 59 and a half, that's not terrible compared to other income producing investments. And so speaking of getting an income, let's now go over the last category, that is for those looking for a higher income that could potentially use option-based strategies. Now, you may have heard of two popular high-income options-based ETFs that are from JP Morgan that include JPI and JPQ. But the thing here is that these investments are not very tax efficient, and you'd really want to avoid these in taxable accounts. You see, if you invest into JPI and say that you put a $100,000 investment into it and you get an 8% dividend yield, the majority of that income is going to be triggered as ordinary income due to how the fund is structured. So with that example, you could end up owing just over $1,600 in taxes from your initial investment, which would be a 1.65% annual tax drag. And not just that, but depending on your tax bracket, that could be significantly higher because the ordinary income brackets can get up to 37% at the highest. And you also have to factor in potential state or local income taxes. So if you're in a state like California, you really need to avoid this fund at all costs in a taxable account. Now, instead of JPI or JPQ, which by the way, understand that their underlying index is the S&P 500 for JPI and the NASDAQ 100 for JPQ, there is instead a newer, more tax-efficient approach that you could take here, where the new ETFs I'm about to show you, they still offer that high income through options-based strategies, but they're more tax-efficient through their structure that is called a return of capital. All that pretty much means is that with the right funds that have the structure, they would allow you to defer taxes up front to avoid them entirely, where that would instead reduce your cost basis that would end up charging you the taxes later on when you go to sell the fund. And when the time comes, that would end up being taxed as long-term capital gains. So the two top ETFs here that I'm a big fan of are coming from the company NEOS, where the first one is the NEOS S&P 500 Income ETF, SPYI, and the other is the NEOS NASDAQ 100 High Income ETF, QQQI. Both of the funds have a 0.68% expense ratio shown as the management fee on the top, where SPYI launched in 2022 and currently has $10 billion in net assets, where QQQI launched even more recently in 2024 and currently has $13 billion in net assets. So for this example, I'm just going to briefly mention QQQI, where you can see the fund's investment objective is to generate a high monthly income in a tax-efficient manner with the potential for equity appreciation. Now, I've created content on this topic in much more detail if you want to check that out. I'll have that and other free resources linked in the description below for you. Which I'll also mention that I plan to bring on experts from this company on the InvestLane YouTube channel in the future to talk even further on the investments. So if you are interested in that, don't forget to subscribe to that channel as well. But as far as QQQI, notice how it states distributions made by the fund have been classified as a return of capital and may be comprised of options premiums, dividends, capital gains, and interest payments. And so currently the fund has a distribution rate of 14.11%, which is the potential annual income you could expect to earn as of right now. And with the return of capital structure with this fund, most of the income that you take in, it could actually be deferred until later on. Which, by the way, the worst case scenario is that when you go to sell the fund later on, the gains would be triggered as long-term capital gains. Now, I also brought on the founder and CEO of Tap Alpha on the InvestLane YouTube channel to discuss their products, that's T-SPY and T-DAC, that are very similar to these that offer that tax-efficient income and capital appreciation potential using the ROC structure. Which he also said that when the cost basis goes down to zero, the structure is believed that any distributions that you get thereafter, as long as you've held the investment for at least 1 full year, the distributions that you take in, they're going to be taxed as long-term capital gains. But something crucial that you have to realize as well is that many of these high income ETFs, they have what's called NAV erosion, which means the true value of the fund declines since it pays out a higher yield and the true growth that you see out of the fund is eroding. But with these funds like QQQI, they still reap strong growth from their underlying holdings, and they've still been able to see strong growth as a whole, whether you take the distributions out or not. So just to give you an example, over the past year, QQQI has actually grown about 31% in value. So even if you took out the 14% of a distribution income, your actual investment would have still grown 17% in true value. So just to sum it up in simple terms, the ETFs like JPI and JPQ, they offer a high monthly income and the potential for true growth in value based on their underlying index being the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ 100. But for the newer ETFs like SPYI and QQQI, due to the return of capital structure, you could almost view it as the ability to defer taxes now to later on, at the worst, pay long-term capital gains. Now, the choice here and how much you own in these funds depends entirely on your personal situation and income goals, but to just show you how well these investments may work together, let's finish this off with a very simple, generic portfolio example. All right, so first realize that there are many different ways that you could go about building a portfolio with these ETFs in a normal taxable brokerage account. If you're on the younger end, you may simply want growth potential and just own the S&P 500 like VOO and complement that with a large cap growth ETF like SCHG. If you're mid-career, you may want to add a small amount of SCHD and QQQI to boost the potential income. Or if you're specifically seeking a monthly income, you may really want to boost the portion towards QQQI. The choice is completely up to you and what you're personally looking for. But to keep it simple, let's say that you're mid-career, but you really want to stay reaping a tax-efficient income with the ability to still have your portfolio grow in true value and outpace inflation. So let's just say that you keep VOO as the foundation with about 40% towards the portfolio, SCHG for large cap at 20%, SCHD for value dividends at 20%, and then QQQI so that you can reap some extra income on a monthly basis, and let's say 20% toward that. If we look at this portfolio from January 2025 to today, you can see that it would have averaged an annualized return of about 20%, which is very similar to just owning 100% in the S&P 500, which, by the way, these numbers assume that you reinvest the dividends for both. But speaking of that, your income now from a $100,000 investment would have generated $4,430 in the year of 2025, which is about a 4.4% yield, where the S&P 500 would have likely generated just over a 1% yield, showing that this portfolio could simply and easily provide 4 times the income if you'd like. And remember that if you hold long enough, everything at the worst case would be treated as long-term capital gains. That'd be in the range of 0, 15, or 20% at the federal level, depending on your tax bracket. In the end, whether you are a growth investor or looking for an income, these are 4 of the best ETFs that I recommend looking into and considering for a taxable account. And of course, this is not financial advice, and you must do your own research and make your own investment decisions. But I have to say, to thank you all for watching this video, please know that I've created an entire free index fund cheat sheet. So if you want to see data on these ETFs and other top ones that are in the market all in one place, I'll have a direct link in the description below for you. And while you're at it, if you want to get started on a new investing platform or even a high yield savings account, I'll have direct links below to some of the top options that you could get started with. Which please know, at the end of the day, I want you to do what's best for your finances, but do know, depending on the ones that you choose to get started with, I may earn a commission for it, which is greatly appreciated. And as always, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notifications button for future content like this.